Good evening, everybody. It's David coming at you from Zone 5B here in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. And it's been a rough week here in Zone 5B. I just recorded a 15-minute video for you explaining why, and I recorded it the wrong way. So yeah, there's that. So as you all know, we've kind of had weird weather to start our season off this year in Zone 5B. We had a lot of cool weather, and then when we hit the hot temperature to 90 degrees, we were there and we stayed there for like 2 weeks with little to no rain, little to no relief. So as expected, I did see a ton of growth on all my plants, which is awesome. That's what we want. This is my little grape. But there have also been a few curveballs for me. One day this week, I was leaving the house and I noticed that every single leaf turned brown and was dead or dying on these two trees. Wrigley, go lay down. Which would be my sweet cherry tree and one of my apple trees. I used some of those scanning apps, and you see the leaves on the ground that I still need to pick up. And it said it was probably brown rot disease. So I am now hoping that the branches, which right now are still alive, survive after I cut off all those leaves. Kind of barrier number one that I faced this week. The second one, the second issue that I had this week is excited to get on camera. We had a storm blow winds, and those strong winds blew lid to my raised bed down, and it absolutely devastated half of my ground cherry plants and also knocked over two of my pepper plants that are right along the edge there. And it faced increased pest issues this year, and I will show you some of what they have done. You see on the leaf there and here, that is Japanese beetle damage, and there's a Japanese beetle now as we speak. And I had aphid problems before I even came outside. So all of these things this week got me down a little bit, but they also got me thinking about gardening and why I garden and what I get out of gardening. And surprisingly, I learned that gardening has given me 5 key words, and I wanted to share them all with you in case you are going through any kind of personal journey where these might benefit you as well. Chickens out roaming around this morning. So the first P word that gardening is purpose. If you've watched my other videos, you know I came to gardening at a time when I was going through some big life changes. Just retired from a career of 29 years, where that Japanese beetle damage, and I was going through a divorce. I was trying to adjust to my new status quo, involved having a lot more free time on my hands as the kids were with their mom half the time. So gardening really gave me purpose that I needed at that time in my life. You know, it is very easy to go to work your 9 to 5 and come home and not have energy to veg out on the couch, or maybe get wrapped up in parenting. And there's definitely nothing wrong with that, but it's easy to let your joy slip away, or to not even remember the things that give you joy. And gardening helped me discover my joy. I'd never been into gardening before. My mom still jokes about that. I was never a farm boy. I didn't have many relatives that farmed. I did have an aunt and a grandma on my dad's side that liked to grow tomatoes, but I never really thought about gardening. And stumbling on Next Level Gardening, and Brian, thank you again, Brian, and getting the bug to garden really gave me purpose at a time when I was kind of adrift So it helped a lot. It helped in the recovery process, and retiring can be kind of a grieving process because you lose that aspect. And then divorce obviously is a grieving process. So gardening helped me find that joy. And the second P word, the second P word that gardening has given me is patience. As you know, you see all these giant, lush green plants all over the place. And it's easy to forget that most of these seeds I started back in March. We are now in mid-July, and I am just now starting to see some harvests. My potatoes look bad because my chickens keep going and sitting in there. I'm just now getting to the point where I can harvest cucumbers from my garden, and I can harvest peppers and a handful of the cherry tomatoes. So gardening does require patience. There's no way around it. We put the seeds in the ground, and then really all we can do is hope and pray that we get the weather that we need to help these things grow the way they are, have them thrive the way they are. There's a nice cucumber in there I'm going to have to collect this week. So patience is a big, big thing. And the next thing that the next P word that gardening has given me is perspective. It is when you can go to the grocery store or the convenience store or even order delivery and have fresh vegetables delivered to your house within an hour. It's really easy to take for granted. The amazing beauty of nature, the amazing process that goes into gardening and growing fruits and vegetables, and the beauty involved. To think that you could take a tiny, tiny seed and put it in the ground and stand back, and within a few months, you can have this big, luscious plant that's going to produce tomatoes or strawberries. It's a plane flying overhead, or cucumbers or squash. And it's easy to take that for granted when it's so easy. You just have to go to the store. So gardening helped me remember that perspective, that this is amazing. This is truly a gift. And we are so lucky to be able to grow our own or go to the grocery store and pick up what we need. So that was the third P word. The next P word that gardening has taught me is pride. A sense of pride. First time I was able to sit down to dinner with my two teenage kids and put 2 cucumbers that I picked from my garden that week on the table, to air fry my first eggplant off of my plants this year, to air fry my first okra ever and put that on the table. And in addition to that, I was able to take 2 bags of my excess peppers, because my pepper plants are doing, and give those away this week to friends. And to see the faces of people who don't garden when you hand over a bag that's full of fresh, homegrown produce is really rewarding. It does give you that sense of pride, and it helps you to remember that all this effort is worthwhile. It's not just about growing something. It's about growing something worthwhile that you can enjoy, that your family can enjoy, that your friends can enjoy if you choose to sell or give away any excess, or the food pantry if you're going to give your excess away to a food pantry. So I definitely get that sense of pride. So we have purpose, we have patience, we have perspective, and we have pride. And the last P word in my garden this year, and this is especially true after this last week, is perseverance. I think my gardening journey is an awesome really of life. I put these seeds in the ground. Everything was growing. I had to deal with the weather early on in the season. Then when we finally get those summer temperatures, life went through some new hurdles at me. You know, it threw that fungal disease on my trees at me. It threw that windstorm at me that damaged my ground cherry plants, which I was really looking forward to. And I had a few choices. You know, I could have thrown in the towel. I could have ripped up the entire garden, frustrated, and said, you know what, I'm done with it. I'm not going to do it. It's not worth the time and effort. I put all this effort into it. And then the world kind of throws that speed bump at me and derails it. I could have left it, let it be. I could have let it be to see what happens and kind of left it on its own. Again, kind of throwing in the towel. Or I could have done what I chose to do, which is find a way to overcome the barriers that had been put before me. So for the ground cherries, and I cut off the broken pieces so they wouldn't be taking any energy away from the rest of the plant. I staked up most of what I had. I still need to stake up these two that are on the ground. Those are actually still attached. I straightened up that pepper plant, which still seems to be doing really, really well right here on the edge of my bed. For my tree disease, I cut off all the diseased leaves. I sprayed it with water and baking soda. I'll do that again next week, hoping to overcome that barrier that's thrown in my way. And I chose not to give up. I chose to keep fighting for my garden, fighting for the joy that gardening and growing brings me. And that is probably the most important lesson that my garden has taught me this year. And again, I think it does extend. It extends out to life because we learn at a young age that not everything's going to go our way, right? We don't catch all the lucky breaks. You're not always going to be popular. You're not always going to be the favorite. You have things that go wrong. You're going to have challenges in life. You're going to have speed bumps thrown at you. You're going to have failures. And you get to choose how you adjust to those failures. Get out of my potato bag. And through gardening, I can illustrate to myself that I'm not going to let these little hurdles, like the heavy winds, like the fungal disease, like the bug pressure from the Japanese beetles or the aphids or the pest damage, I'm not going to let it derail me and ruin my journey. It may slow me down, it may set me back a little bit, but I'm going to find a way around it, and I'm going to push through. And I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to come back stronger. If not this year, this growing season, the next growing season. So thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you like my content, hit that like button, please. It really helps my algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe, the notification button if you want to know when my next video is posted. There's the other chicken. I have one that's probably broody, so I'm sure she's in the coop. Share my video to see my content get out there, so everybody can see that gardening's not always as easy as some of the videos may make it seem, but it is so very worthwhile. And find your joy, whatever it is. Gardening, crafting, woodworking, construction, whatever your joy is, find it. Make life about more than the 9-to-5 grind and then sitting at home waiting to go to bed so you can start the next day. Find something to laugh, something that brings you peace. Don't forget to grow a little every single day. And I hope to see you guys all back here again real soon on Come Grow with David A. Have a good weekend.